euch in den nächsten Minuten oder Stunde zu sprechen. Also, ich muss erst eine. So. Könnt ihr meine Screenshot sehen, mein Referat sehen?
No, nicht. Für mich. Oh ja, jetzt sehe ich.
Okay, super. Also, wir reden heute über Klimawandel, aber lass mich zuerst das Thema erklären und noch später werde ich was alles zu tun hat, später sagen. Also, wie ihr das seht, also den Titel ist Klimawandel Anthropogen. Also für mich Klimawandel, ich sage Klimawandel Anthropogen, weil für viele Wissenschaftler sagen, dass der Klimawandel ist kein neues Thema, es ist keine neue Sache, das hat immer schon lange passiert, also dass unsere Erde ein Klimaproblem hat. Aber was wir heutzutage leben, mit diesen vielen Problemen mit dem Klimawandel, ist, wir sind die Menschen oder die Menschheit sind heutzutage verantwortlich dafür, sind viele der Grund dafür. Deswegen sage ich Klimawandel, Anthropogen, also Klimawandel, wie ich das bitte erklären würde. Und auch Anthropogen ist als Menschen, also diese Latino-Worte Anthropos, das heißt, das hat zu tun mit den Menschen, auch was wir ein Begriff, eine Anthropologie, Begriffe für Menschen zu definieren oder zu beschreiben oder so. Also fangen wir jetzt bei Wandel oder so. Oder bei, was ist genau Wandel? Also was ist genau eine Veränderung? Also man kann so einfach so sagen, eine Veränderung ist immer eine Modifikation oder eine Transformation von etwas. Also was alles, was nicht früher, was nicht vorher so war und was ist verändert, dann kann man das so nennen als eine Veränderung, also was ist Wandel oder so. Und auch Klima als Thema, weil im Klimawandel hört man Klima, dann sieht man diese Worte, diese Begriffe, wie wir alle kennen, das Klima. Und auch, ich will das auch ein bisschen erklären, eine Definition geben dafür. Also gibt es auch diese Definition, Sie sagen, das Klima ist die Menge der atmosphärischen Bedingungen, die für eine bestimmte Region charakteristisch sind. Zum Beispiel klimatropisch oder so, oder subtropisch, mediterranen oder Klima äquatorial, gemäßigt oder polar. Wie man das schon, wenn ihr das früher vielleicht schon gehört habt, ist zum Beispiel Nordpolar oder so, Südpolar, aber kann man das auch so beschreiben als eine charakteristische Region für ein Klima oder so. Oder wie ich aus der Karibik komme, also aus Haiti, wir leben in einer Äquatorialregion, also wie sagt man das, eine tropische Region, Entschuldigung. Denn das ist auch eine Art von einem Klima. Also das Klima ist auch eine Beschreibung. Also wenn jemand in einer tropischen Region lebt, das heißt, du lebst in einer warmen Region. Wir beschreiben das, die Temperatur jetzt, wenn man ein bisschen tiefer gehen kann, Temperatur ist warm in dieser Region.
Okay, ich habe es leiser gemacht.
Entschuldigung. Und auch wenn man das auch sagt, Südpolar oder Klimapolar, dann die Temperatur hat immer zu tun, was ist sehr kalt, sehr kalt ist, also heiß, so viel heiß gibt. Aber in diesem Zusammenhang, Klima und Wandel, das sogenannte heutzutage Klimawandel, kann man das so beschreiben als eine Variation des Klimas der Erde definiert. Also durch männliches Handeln erzeugt wird. Also diese menschlichen Handlungen führen zu übermäßigen Treibhausgasemissionen in der Atmosphäre. Also das Thema Treibhausgasemissionen werde ich später erklären. Aber für Treibhauseffekt wird auch der Prozess verstanden, bei dem bestimmte Gase einen Teil von der Oberfläche des Planeten emittierten Wärmestrahlung absorbieren und an die Oberfläche zurückführen. Dieser Effekt erzeugt einen Temperaturanstieg, der als globale Erwärmung bezeichnet wird. Also unsere Erde, wie wir jetzt kennen, muss sich wärmen. Also damit muss eine normale Temperatur an Bilanztemperatur haben. Das ist sogenannte diese Strahlungsbilanz. Also was wir als Energie von der Sonne bekommen, also durch diese Emission von diese Energie von der Sonne durch die Erde, und auch was wir auch an Menschen und auch als die Erde produziert auch selbst seine Energie. Und auch diese Energie, sie sind in einer Form von Gase, sogenannte diese CO2-Gase oder N2, also diese Peroxidazot. Also die Balance, diese Strahlungsbalance nennt man, das ist diese Balance, muss man finden, also muss die Erde finden, also die Erde hat das schon vorher gemacht. Also diese Balance von was wir als Energie bekommen von der Erde, als warme Energie oder so, und auch was wir auch produzieren, das wieder zu reflektieren in der Atmosphäre. Da da gibt es diese Bilanz und auch deswegen nennt man diese Effekte Treibhauseffekt wie in Agrikultur, wie sie das machen, in einem Glas, damit die Pflanze Wärmetemperatur haben können. Aber wo kommt was ist die Ursache des Klimawandels? Welche Ursache gibt es denn? Also muss man erst sagen, die erste Ursache des Klimawandels ist bei der Verbrennung von Kohle, von Öl und Gas, die entstehende CO2 und SO2. Also und auch an zweiter Stelle kommt auch die Abholzung. Also Abholzung nennt man die Verbrennung der Bäume oder so. Also weil die Bäume sind sehr für unsere Gesellschaft, für unsere Erde, für unsere Menschheit sehr wichtig, weil die Bäume absorbieren die CO2, die CO2-Gase, nenne ich gerade, aus der Atmosphäre. Aber wenn sie fallen oder verbrennen, dann sie sitzen frei. Diese Gase, die schon tausend Jahre oder Millionen Jahre, die sie gespeichert haben. Dann wenn diese alles CO2 wieder in der Luft, in der Atmosphäre gehen, dann das wird total Wärme. Unsere Atmosphäre wird sich verwärmen oder so. Und dass man auch diese Treibhauseffekt, das macht kaputt auch diese Strahlungsbilanz, weil die Erde kann sich nicht mehr diese Balance machen. Also die Erde wird sich wärmer als normal, als früher. Und auch eine andere Ursache ist auch die Zunahme des Widerstands. Und auch, kommt auch eine andere Ursache, ist auch die stickstoffhaltige Düngemittel. Und sagt man auch, die fluoreszenten Gase, die sind auch, haben auch Effekte, auch, wie große Wirkung in unserer Erde. Also sie sind auch schlimmer als die CO2-Sache, ein paar wissenschaftliche. Aber zum Glück auch die sind sehr gering oder sie sind sehr wenig in der Atmosphäre. Aber die Wissenschaftler sagen auch, die Forscher sagen auch, dass die Lebensdauer von den CO2 in der Atmosphäre dauert rund 100 Jahren. Also ihr könnt sich gerne können sich vorstellen, also für an Tonnen CO2 jetzt in der Atmosphäre, dann wird 100 Jahre dauern. Also wir werden sterben, aber sie werden noch mal leben. Sie werden noch mal bleiben, unter 100 Jahren mehr in der Atmosphäre bleiben. Also das ist total unfassbar. Also sehr stimmt, finde ich auch. Aber ich will auch ein paar ich will auch präsentieren, also muss man auch fragen, wo kommt ja eigentlich dieser CO2-Ausstoß? Wie werden sie denn produzieren? Und auch auf diesem Bild kann man auch die Quellen der CO2-Ausstoß auf der Welt sehen. Und das ist ein Bild von ein Bericht von CRC, also ist auch keine wissenschaftliche Stelle oder so, kann man dazu sagen. Und auch, sie sagen, in 2017 ist es 37 Millionen, 100 Millionen Tonnen auf der Erde, also in der Atmosphäre ist ausgestoßen. Also ist total, ist aber die erste, also die große Source oder die große Quelle kommt aus der Energiewirtschaft. Also was wir machen, für die Energie zu produzieren, Energie zu haben im Haus, also für die Industrie und in der Uni oder so, also im Alltag. Also was brauchen wir für Energie? Also Energie ist der erste Gründe der CO2-Ausstoß auf der Welt mit 13.800 Millionen Tonnen. Also war in 2017, also vor 3 Jahren. Und später und nachher kommt die industrielle Verbrennung und auch, kommt auch Verkehr national, also mit Flugzeug, Bus, Zug oder so oder Auto. Und kommt auch Gebäude, was wir brauchen, was wir benutzen zu Hause, unser Gebäude oder so, in unserem Haus. Und auch interessant auch zu wissen ist, wie viele Leute, also welche Länder sind zuerst, also die größte CO2, die CO2 produzieren. Also erster Platz kommt, wenn ihr das auf diesem Bild seht, erster Platz ist China mit den 10.900 Millionen CO2. Und das war in 2009, 2017, also vor 3 Jahren. Und in zweiter Stelle kommt USA mit 500 Millionen Tonnen CO2-Ausstoß. Und nachher kommt EU, Russland und auch Indien oder so, Japan. Also diese 6 Länder sind die ersten, die auf der Welt mehr CO2-Ausstoß CO2 produzieren oder ausstoßen. Und jetzt sehen wir nur in Deutschland, wenn wir einen Blick auf Deutschland machen können, und welche Sektoren auch sind zuerst. Also sieht man noch keinen großen Unterschied zwischen das erste Bild. Und auch ist genauso, Energie kommt zuerst und nachher kommt die Industrie, ist an zweiter Stelle. Weil viele, also die reichen Länder, wenn ihr das so wenn ihr einen Blick zurück machen können, kann man auch sehen, diese 6 Länder, die mehr aus CO2 ausstoßen, sind die Industrienationen. Oder so besser zu sagen, sie sind die reichen Länder auf der Welt. Aber das heißt auch, sie sind auch die erste, wie sagt man das, sie sind die erste CO2, sie sind die erste, die Länder, die CO2 ausstoßen auf der Welt. Sie stoßen mehr CO2 aus der Welt als die anderen Länder. Sie sind so, also wie man sagen, die sind die Top. Also nur ein Grund ist, weil sie auch in einer Industrienation sind. Weil wenn so man auf das Bild sehen kann, die erste, also die Quellen sind von Energie, was sie Energie produzieren, also von Cola, von Öl, zum Beispiel diese hier bei uns in NRW, am Bacher Forst oder so, wo sie diese große Höhle machen, für Cola zu produzieren, damit sie Energie später machen können. Dann ja, aber sieht man das sofort, das ist keine große Lüge, das ist total nachgewiesen. Und durch auch Industrieauto oder welche Produkte oder so, egal welche Industrie ist das, aber sie sind auch zuerst der Grund des Klimawandels. Und auch auf diese Grafik kann man auch so interpretieren, und dass zwischen 20 Jahren, also in 1998, war auf der Welt global, auf der Welt waren nur ungefähr 5 oder 6 Millionen Tonnen CO2 ausgestoßen, also in 1998. Aber in 2018 kann man auch so sehen, in diese blaue Linie, und dass ungefähr 25 Millionen CO2 sind ausgestoßen, also wurde ausgestoßen. Also. Und auch, das heißt, inzwischen 20 Jahren, die Menschen haben 20 Mal mehr CO2 in der Atmosphäre produziert oder ausgestoßen produziert. Also inzwischen 20 Jahren ist es total doppelt, also fast nicht doppelt, also fast 20 Mal mehr, kann man auch so sagen, oder 4 Mal mehr, sorry, 4 Mal mehr CO2 ausgestoßen, also zwischen 20 Jahren. Also das hat auch wirklich auch zu tun mit der Industrie, was wir als Menschen, die Entwicklung der Länder, also alle Länder wollen sich entwickeln, sie wollen reicher sein, sie wollen natürlich ihre Einwohner, ihre Bürger versorgen oder so. Und auch Arbeitsplatz hat auch zu tun für Schule, für Bildung, für Essen oder so, egal was, wenn man auch zum Urlaub fahren möchte oder so, dann ist also die Lebensstandard der Menschen muss auch, sie wollen sie das auch noch halten. Also, aber das hat auch keine Folge, dass auch in Parallel mit dieser Entwicklung, also als Menschen, wir machen unsere Welt auch kaputt, wenn ich das so einfach sagen kann. Also, was hat alles das als Konsequenz? Was ist denn die Konsequenz? Weil wenn wir etwas, also jede Veränderung hat immer eine Konsequenz. Also für auch als Menschen, wenn wir uns selbst verändert, wir doch etwas eine Konsequenz haben. Wir doch etwas, was nicht früher gibt, aber wir dort das auch nicht mehr stattfinden, oder wir doch etwas kaputt machen oder verbessern. Aber leider in diesem Fall, in diesem Klimawandel, die Zukunft wird doch nicht besser sein. Als Konsequenz kann man auch so sagen, wird auch die Temperatur anstieg, die Temperatur wird ansteigen. Das heißt auch, dass wir auch tödliche Hitzefälle. Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr erinnert, letztes Jahr, Sommer letztes Jahr war total sehr warm hier in Deutschland, oder nicht nur in Deutschland, ganz Europa, war manchmal über 40 Grad. Das hat er vorher nie gehabt oder so. Aber alle Leute haben sich gefragt, warum ist das so? Und auch, was kann man so machen? Und auch, sie haben gesagt, warum ist so warm? Und ist das wirklich, ja, jemand ein Freund hat mir gesagt, die Sonne ist untergegangen, also näher auf der Welt gegangen. Aber das hat wirklich gar nichts zu tun. Die Sonne bleibt immer noch, wo sie ist. Aber nur die Wärme, also der Erde, ist angestiegen. Und auch der Anstieg der Infektionskrankheiten wird auch anstiegen, weil je mehr hitziger ist oder je mehr Wärme ist, dann ist desto schneller und auch desto schneller wird auch die Infektion auch ansteigen. Also das hat zum Beispiel ein paar Maladien, zum Beispiel Krankheiten, zum Beispiel Malaria oder so. Also diese Tiere, Moskitos. Ich habe vergessen den Namen. Wie sagt man das in Deutsch? Aber sie leben diese Temperatur, wenn es so alt ist.
Mücken heißen die.
Mücken, danke. Mücken. Ja, genau, sie leben diese Temperatur. Wie sie leben, wenn es so heiß ist, wenn es so warm ist. Und auch später dann die Bevölkerung wird auch mehr krank werden. Also zum Beispiel Malaria oder so oder Tuberkulose, dann ist so wie in der Karibik, so wir kennen das ganz genau, weil das ist auch kein großes Problem für uns. Oder so. Aber wieder auch Atempathologie. Also habe ich auch letzte Woche gelesen, dass auch in Frankreich viele Menschen sind auch davon gestorben. Also weil es war so warm war und auch für sie diese Luft war so wie heißt das, so sec oder so, wie sagt man sec? So die Luft war nicht so trocken, genau. Die Luft war so trocken, die Luft war so trocken für sie, dann sie können auch nicht so gut atmen. Also das ist auch eine Konsequenz auch des Klimawandels, wird man auch davon sterben. Also Entschuldigung, weil wenn ich zum Beispiel ein paar Worte vergesse in Deutsch oder man ausspreche auch nicht so klar. Ich weiß nicht, ob bis jetzt ist auch okay, ob ich mich verstanden kann.
Voll gut.
Okay,
Super.
ja, danke. Also ja, als weitere Konsequenz kann man auch sagen, die Höhe des Meeres. Also habe ich auch gestern gelesen, dass auch in Nordsee Küste, dann die Meer, also das Meer ist 1 Meter angestiegen oder so. Dann kann man also in den letzten Jahren, also zum Glück nicht, also dieser Prozess passiert nicht schneller. Also die Meer wird auch nicht morgen oder an anderen 2-3 Tage ansteigen oder so oder erhöht. Das dauert ein paar Jahre, also manchmal ist es 100 oder 200 oder so, oder manchmal auch 50, kann auch schneller gehen. Aber muss man auch denken, wenn man sagen, ja, aber wenn das dauert wird, dann wir müssen jetzt keinen F-Tisch machen, dann wir müssen uns nicht keine Sorge machen. Aber wir müssen auch denken für die nächste Generationen nach 50 Jahren oder 100 Jahren. Sie werden auch noch auf dieser Erde leben. Sie werden auch, wo wir jetzt leben, wohnen und leben und sie weiterleben. Aber wenn der Meer hoch geht, dann wir werden auch Erde, wo wir jetzt wohnen, unsere Erde, unsere, wie sie das nennen, Geografie, diese Kutte wird auch weniger Platz haben, Platz zu leben. Zum Beispiel eher wo in der Insel, zum Beispiel, und in Haiti zum Beispiel oder in Philippinen oder so, sie werden das merken. Eine andere Konsequenz auch ist auch erhöhter Niederschlag. Das betrifft eher die tropische Region, wo immer jedes Jahr viele Niederschlag gibt. Zum Beispiel in Kuba oder in Dominikanische Republik oder so. Oder Haiti oder ja, egal, wo immer große Niederschlag gibt. Und auch diese Ozeanversorgung. Diese Ozeanversorgung versteht man, dass auch das Ozean wird sich versorgt, also es ist sauer, mehr sauer, wenn ich das so erklären kann. Also die Alge oder diese Pflanzen, die im Meer leben und auch die Fische, die Tiere im Meer leben, werden sie auch sterben, weil das Ozean wird sich, das Wasser wird sich sauer oder so. Jedoch nicht, sie können dort auch nicht mehr leben. Und ein paar Biocenos werden sie auch sterben. Und auch andere weitere Konsequenzen oder Effekte, kann man sagen, sind Dürren, Hochwasser, also viele Leute haben wahrscheinlich das erleben. Und Verlust der Biodiversität, das ist auch schon klar, dass wenn die Bäume also zum Beispiel durch Waldbrände, kann ich das zusammen machen, Verlust der Biodiversität in der Waldbrände, wenn die Wald sich verbrennen, dann ein paar Tiere werden ihre Hause verloren. Dann, Und auch sie werden sich an andere Platz gehen und auch vielleicht sterben. Aber ich will auch nicht so weiter viel reden, vielleicht damit das nicht so langweilig wird. Ich werde noch, vielleicht kann Cheng für mich jetzt das Video spielen, damit ich alles gut klar oder damit ihr alles seht oder gut versteht.
Also Koala rescued from the okay.
Rescuing me. Oh shit. Can you move back?
Worst we've ever seen. Never seen anything like this. Makes for good photos with the suns. But other than that, it's the only good thing about it. We look out on the city. Can't see it today. It's terrible.
Also, ja, danke, Cheng. Thank you.
Hello.
Also, wir haben gerade gesehen, dass das war letztes Jahr, das Weltbrände ist in Australien dieses Jahr. Und auch war viele Bäume wurde verbrannt oder so. Und auch viele Tiere auch, so wie diese Wakala, wurden auch gestorben. Und auch viele andere Tiere auch. Also das ist auch, kann man auch so sagen, eine Konsequenz, ein Effekt von dem Klimawandel. Weil hat keiner das auch, hat niemand diese Feuer gemacht in diesem Wald. Wieder auch keiner machen. Aber indirekt hat das so gemacht. Also die Menschen wurden auch, kann man auch sehen, dafür, kann man so sagen, die sind dafür verantwortlich. Diese Waldbrände ist auch ein Effekt, ist auch nachgewiesen von dem Klimawandel. Und auch hat große Konsequenzen für die Natur und auch für die Tiere. Weil viele Bäume sind auch noch nicht mehr da. Und wie ich das vorher gesagt habe, und diese Bäume, sie sitzen wieder frei. Die CO2, die sie schon 100 Jahre oder 200 Jahre gespeichert haben. Und auch diese Tiere auch dann haben sie kein Aus mehr. Und auch viele davon sind gestorben. Also gibt es ein anderes Video und das ist auch ein Szenario, wie wird das genau passieren, wenn wir nichts machen. Dann kannst du besser für mich.
Sorry, we're kind of running short of time, so we will send these videos that Stanley prepared to everyone afterwards. Does that work for you, Stanley?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Yes, because we have. Let me just quickly give you brief preview. There are at least 2 other videos here. And they are really informative and great. But since we still have Mavis for the presentation. So we will have to rush a little. Sorry for that. But thank you so much, Stanley. That was super informative. So many very interesting facts that I thought I knew, but well, obviously I didn't. Do we have any questions or feedback for Stanley at this point? Or do you have something to add?
And let me add some things. And there's a link you can also show what we can do as alternative, what we can do to change this problem. We can give.
Do you want to share screen again?
Sorry?
Would you like to share your screen again? Because now it's my screen.
Oh, okay, I can.
Yeah.
It's okay. No, I don't want to share my screen.
But
Yes, and this link and the link you can in this video, in the next video you can look what we can do, what we can change, what we can, or we can save this planet, or I can make some activity, but this is only some choice.
Hi, Stanley. Could you put the link in the chat box so that we can all read it right now?
Yeah, thank you. I'll do it.
Awesome. So while Stanley do that, let me just very briefly plug our AG, our working group on racism, on refugees, and on diversity, because that's why we're having this event too. It's an AG special event. So please allow me to briefly show you our yearly plan that was brainstormed by the participants at AG, and we have some themes for the coming months lined up, and it will be in similar format. Someone picks a topic that they are interested in, they are passionate at, and then we will have a presentation, and then we can have a discussion. So thank you so much, Stanley, for being our very first Gappy to lead a topic and have this special session with us. So here we are gonna maybe do a multicultural dinner if this Corona lockdown situation is changed in a month. Hopefully we will get to do that, and we're also gonna cover topics like how BPOC people are stereotyped and fetishized right before the Cologne Pride. Well, it's not happening. Sorry, I have to update this. It's not gonna happen. The Pride is canceled. Yeah, and also other topics like, you know, queer jargons in different languages, and so they're gonna talk about now and just how society responds differently to white versus non-white terrorism. So these are the potential topics that we're gonna cover. And if this social distancing and close down doesn't change, we will do something online. And if you see any topic that you're interested in, please just reach out and we can arrange something, because Stanley was super motivated to give this presentation on climate, and I just feel super lucky to have you, Stanley. It was super informative. Right, so thank you. And now we're gonna move on to our Mavis. Okay, Mavis, when you're ready, feel free to share your screen with us.
Yes.
Well,
Sharing my screen now. Okay. Okay. I think you should see my screen now. All right. Okay. So thank you very much for the opportunity to have a discussion on this topic, and thank you, Stanley, for the very informative session on climate change. What I'm going to do here is to add the human part, the justice part, and the social part of this whole discussion to the topic on board today, which is what has climate change, fashion, and social justice have to do with each other. And for me, this is very personal because from what I know about climate justice, I sort of pass all the marks in terms of the kind of people who are vulnerable. Talking about women, I tick the box. If we talk about people from developing countries, from Africa, who are one of the most susceptible to the impact of climate change, I also tick the box on that part. And talking about poor people or not rich people, so of course I don't live less than $1 a day, so I'm not so poor. At the same time, I'm not also rich. So in terms of talking about the differences and how this impacts between rich and poor people, I could also take for one box. So for me, this part of the climate change debate is really personal and it's important. And I believe that by the time we end with this discussion, most of us would also identify ourselves under this topic. So this should also be personal for you as well. So when we talk about climate justice, what is it, or what is the premise? And basically, all that this does is that it puts a human face to the climate change debate. So it's not just about the science, it's not just about the economics. What about human rights? What about the ethical part of this whole debate? So that is the contribution that climate justice adds to the climate change debate. Also, the most important thing, and I think like Stanley mentioned it some way, somehow, although not directly, it's also that the countries that have actually contributed to global warming are not the ones that are the most vulnerable to the impact. So, and which is not fair. So he mentioned that there's China, there's US, which is like the second emitter, greenhouse gas emitter, and we have other Western countries that have contributed to the problem. But in terms of those who stand to be impacted the most, it's rather the countries that have not contributed so much to the problem. So that is also a justice issue. And it's the same thing. So it's a fact that the people who are poor or rich, or developed countries or developing countries, or men and women, young people and old people, all of these groups of people will experience the impact of this climate change differently. Some would be impacted more than others. So this is summarized by the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres, who simply says that climate change is actually happening, and it's happening to all of us. So regardless of where you are, which country you are, wherever you find yourself, we are experiencing climate change some way, somehow. But as it's always the case, it's always going to be the poor and the vulnerable people who are going to be more impacted, or who are going to feel the impacts of this crisis. Now, moving into the segment of the people that stand to be most impacted, science or research has shown or has proven that people from developing countries, or like Africa, like Asia, they stand to be the most affected by climate crisis. Now, it's also, and the reason why this is a problem is because, for example, in Africa, most of the people, like the GDP of sub-Saharan Africa, for example, agriculture contributes almost 40% to the GDP of African, sub-Saharan African economy. So what that means is that if due to climate change, there's going to be extreme weather events, and it's already started, there's going to be drought. That means that the economy is also going to be greatly affected, although they did not contribute to the crisis, or did not contribute so much to the problem at hand. And so this is an issue of justice. Why is it that the people who did not contribute so much tend to be the ones to suffer most of the consequences? And it's also, science also tells us that there's going to be a lot of undernourishment, and this also is still connected to the agricultural part, because if they are not able to feed themselves, if they are not able to feed their citizens, then there's going to be an issue of hunger, which has other several consequences that we'll be discussing also in the course of the presentation. Now, I just give a few examples of what is already happening. So it's not that it's something that is in the distant future, it's something that we are already seeing now. So Mozambique, for example, and there was that cyclone that actually ruined a lot of maize farms, as you can already see in the picture. There's also a lot of droughts that the country is experiencing, and which is making it very difficult for farmers or for people to earn a living, because they can no longer farm, or they can no longer depend on nature somehow to earn their living. It's the same thing in Somalia, as we'll be seeing here. So there's already, due to droughts, there's already severe food shortages. So there are several 5.4 million people who are already facing severe food shortages in Somalia due to the climate crisis. Now, the other consequence would be that, and Stanley also mentioned that already, so we have like sea level is already rising. And usually with the countries from small island and developing states, this is already happening. And these people, it will get to the point, if we do not take any action, their countries will be submerged in the sea, and they will not be able to live there anymore. So they would have to flee. And where do they have to go if they cannot inhabit their countries? If their land is they are not able to stay there, it means that they have to flee and go somewhere else where they can stay. So this is going to be, and it's been already, research has already shown that climate refugees, usually people coming from developing countries, we're contributing, will be on the rise in the very near future. So we will be experiencing a lot of climate refugees. Already Europe is closing their borders to refugees because people are trooping in, but this is even going to be worse moving forward if we don't take any action, because people will no longer be able to live in their countries because it's no longer inhabitable. Now, beyond developed and developing country argument, even within a country, there's also the consequences between the rich and the poor, or between different races. So looking at the US, for example, research has shown that African Americans are 3 times likely to die from air pollution than white people or than other people. And the reason for this is that usually most of the coal plants are located in these poor communities. Most of the landfill mines are located in these poor communities, and these are the communities where African Americans or people of color live. So they tend to breathe the bad air, and this has consequences on their health. Now, and this translates into like the number of African Americans children that are actually already suffering from asthma. And this is like twice the amount of white people, for example, who will be suffering from asthma, and it's 10 times higher. So this is an issue. It's also a matter of race. It's also a matter of rich and poor. It's also a matter of people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, people who are not rich. They tend to be mostly affected by this climate crisis and the consequences of our non-environmentally friendly actions. Now, when we also come back to talking about young people versus old people, research has also constantly shown that young people care more about the environment than older people. And this is because most old people think they're done, they're going anyway, so they might not live longer enough to feel the consequence. So it's our problem, the younger generation. We want to live long enough to see this consequence, so it's more of our problem than their problem. And this is a research that was conducted by Yale and George Washington University, for example, and this is the results that's shown that for between millennials and Generation X and boomers, as you can already see in the slide, millennials tend to be more interested, or global warming is really important to them than old people. In terms of willingness to conduct government officials about global warming, it was the same results. It showed that millennials are more willing to contact government officials about global warming or to say something about it and to admonish them to take action rather more than the old people. In terms of donating money on the cause, it's the same thing. Millennials were seen as being more willing to donate money, and also more willing to volunteer in climate organizations or to take volunteer in climate action initiatives, basically.
Sorry, Mavis, we have a question in the chat that's being discussed. What's silent in these graphs?
Sorry?
What does silent mean? Okay, Malda have the explanation.
Yeah, so it's, the explanation has been it. So the silent is the people who were born between 1928 to 1945. So we have the millennials who are from the 1981, 1996. We have the Generation X people who are 1965 to 1980. And then we have the silent people who are the 1928 to 1945. So that's the classification. Okay. So moving forward, so here, people who tend to, global warming tend to be very important to them. Surprisingly, we have the silent group slightly overtaking the millennials. But then again, we also see the trend that it's like millennials and means second after the silent group. So in terms of people who consider global warming as an important factor in their decision-making process, it's also always young people. Due to these reasons, we have seen several young people coming up. We have seen the likes of Greta Thunberg, who are just basically sending a warning to older people and telling them that you have to take action, you have to do something. This is our future that you are ruining. To cause this problem, you have to fix it, basically. And we have like several young people who have been going on the street saying so many things, and you can already read from the slide. So I just read one that I really found very interesting and one that was really strong. And that was from Greta Thunberg, when he said, if you don't take responsibility, if they don't take responsibility for their actions, they'll be remembered as some of the worst villains in human history. And so, and then the DR was referring to the older people, telling them to take action and take responsibility for the harm that they've been caused. So clearly, younger people see this as our problem more than the older generation. Now there's also the queer group, the LGBT group as well, that also tend to be vulnerable to this climate change, in the sense that most of people who come out are usually, they are not accepted by their families. So, and they tend to mostly end up on the street because they are coming from their friends, the society that they live in would not accept them for who they are. And until recently, when now things are becoming better, but I think Shing and the GAP group will still agree with me that there's still more work to be done in terms of societal acceptance of this group. And so they are more likely to end up on the streets. This makes them really susceptible to issues such as like natural disasters because they are on the street. And according to Washington Post, 40% of the US youth actually who experience homelessness identify as LGBTQ. Although they are not the majority of the youth, they like 40% of the youth experiencing homelessness are LGBT group. And most of these people would also be people from low income families, people who are from people of color, and so on. So this is also something that is also quite troubling, and then also a group, another group that is also really susceptible to the consequences of this climate crisis. Now we move on to talk about gender. And by gender, we also are going to look at how do men and women also experience this whole climate change differently. And like everything else, women are always at a disadvantage. So we always tend to be less favored than men in so many ways. And some of the reason why women are more susceptible to the consequences of climate change, because one, the first point is that a lot of women rely on natural resources for their livelihood, and this is usually women from rural communities or women from developing countries. They are like 40% or more than 40% of the farmers, smallholder farmers are women, although they don't own the land. And so that is where unequal access to control and resource and assets also comes in. The research has shown that women own less than 20% of land. Meanwhile, they contribute to food production. They contribute more to food production than men, although they don't even own the property or the land in the first place. And that is without owning land, we know that is economic empowerment. When people can own assets, they are economically empowered, and they can adapt to the consequences of climate change. But if they do not have this, then it's just they don't have the capacity to adapt. And so that is what makes it hard or makes women more vulnerable to the consequences. Also, there's custom, there's norms, there's cultural things that actually promotes this sort of patriarchal society that we see, where women are usually not even involved or allowed to be involved in decision-making processes. We can see that in really very remote areas. We can see that during even family meetings, most of the head of the family is usually the man. During family meetings, women are not even allowed to be involved because they are women. They don't, whatever they say, it's not, or whatever they have to say is not even, does not hold so much weight. Beyond rural community, we see that all around the world, most of the decision makers are men. We don't see a lot of women being represented at the decision-making table, and so their views and their opinion and they are not represented in the decisions that are being made. And so because women are excluded from some of these important decision-making processes, they are not able to be represented well, and their views are not seen in terms of what the decisions that are being made. We still see a gap existing between men and women, and this is not just a developing country issue. This is something that is even existing in Europe. And the European Commission, according to research that was done somewhere in 2017, had said that women actually are earning 16% less per hour than men. Some of the reasons why women are earning less, could be associated to the fact that most of the time women are doing most of the low-level paying jobs. So they are the teachers, they are the nurses, so they are not the CEOs, they are not the presidents of the company, so they are earning they are earning less than men. Sometimes it's just purely a matter of being a woman, because there are instances where women also are doing the same kind of job as men, but yet still they are being paid less than their men colleagues. So some of these issues also make women vulnerable, and it does not give them the capacity or the economic power to be able to adapt to the impact of climate change. And as we see here, we will be seeing very soon,
sorry,
in Bulgaria.
Sorry, sorry, I panicked because you switched side. We we have a question regarding trans people, because previously you already talked about like trans youth, for example, face homelessness situation a lot, but like in this very binary, I suppose like all these researches are done in like a very binary way, but like did you come across any, I don't know, like mentioning of trans people, like non-binary people, trans women, like being, you know, like discriminated, like based on their gender, like what you were talking about in the previous slide?
Okay, so yeah, on this slide here, So yeah, it's
Which is the next
no,
one.
I don't have it in terms of gender, or I don't have information in that category. So whether they are men or women, but the research that I found basically just put the whole group into one. But then what was said was that it's usually the people of color, it's usually the people from low income communities that are usually found in this situation, but it doesn't give a breakdown in gender as to how many of them are women or how many of them are men. Does that answer your question?
I think Alicia wanted to ask more specifically about next slide. When you talked about this slide, are we talking about
This one, right?
no, next one?
Okay. No, so this is yeah, so this is women. I don't think, no, it actually includes that information. So this was a research that was done by European Green and on their communication on gender equality, and they did not really give the classification as to what they classify as women. And so I'm not able to give that information, but yeah. Okay, so here we have, for example, from Bulgaria, where 80% of female single households cannot afford energy as compared to 65% of the males. And in Germany, we also have the same issue where female-headed households are affected twice as much by energy poverty, twice as much as male-headed households. So the question is that what is being done to change this narrative, or what is being done in the international level to change this? And the first thing is that in 2012, during COP18 in Doha, climate gender was put on the agenda for the climate conference, for the Conference of Party. Now, the Conference of Party is this annual session by the United Nations Framework for Climate Change, UNFCCC. Basically, I forgot, it's such a long name. And they hold annual conferences where all countries who are termed as parties, so countries, so organizations, so activists, anybody who is involved in this whole climate discussion, they come together to discuss the way forward in terms of climate change. So in 2012, that was like the first time gender was put on the agenda of the conference. So that was a huge progress. In 2015, when the Paris Agreement was passed, countries were required, or they were asked to consider, among other things, gender, human rights, empowerment of women as part of the actions that they are taking to tackle the climate crisis. And in 2019, last year in Madrid, finally, it was a 5-year action plan was agreed for gender. And the action plan basically gives it gives capacity. It has 5 priority areas, which includes monitoring, which also includes capacity building. It also encourages, gives countries the it helps them to take actions that are gender responsive. So it gives them the knowledge, or it gives them the capacity to plan climate actions that are gender responsive. And so this is great progress that has been made in terms of gender and in terms of putting gender into this whole climate discussion. Now, before we go to the next slide, our question or our topic for today was, what is the relation? So what has all of this got to do with fashion, or what has all of this got to do with climate change? Now, if we see fashion on the left side, And fashion at the moment is contributing 10% of the annual global green gas emissions. And according to the research that was done by World Bank, if we continue with our way of fashion, fast fashion, by 2050, this will be moving to 50%. We learned from Stanley that it's the emission of these greenhouse gases that is actually causing the climate change. And so our fast fashion behavior is contributing to the 10% greenhouse global emissions. This is going to be 50% if we don't change our ways. That means that climate change is still going to be a problem, meaning that we are still going to have the issue of justice, because it's still going to be the poor people who would be suffering more because they do not have the capacity to adapt to the consequences of the crisis. Now, the question is, okay, so what can we do to change this at the individual level? And there are several things we can do. This is not exhaustive in any way, actually. It's just 4 of the things that we can do. So the first thing is that we need to support equal representation of people, equal representation of women, of people of color, of any minority, so people that are underrepresented. We need to support them in the decision making. So we should vote for women more to be politicians. We should vote for women more to be on the decision making table so that they can be heard. Not just women, but also young people, but also queer, and also all other minority politicians. We should also prioritize green energy technology, so renewable energy. If you have the chance to use renewable energy at your home, you should take the chance to do it. You should also patronize green label products. So we should buy more sustainable products. And we should also support movements like Fridays for Future or any other environmental movements that are advocating for change. And most importantly, we should also vote for political parties or politicians that are actually championing environmental friendly policies. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope this was educative, and if you have any questions, you may ask now.
Thank you so much, Mavis. That was really informative, and I think a great, way to see how things that we usually consider to be different actually affect one another and are like linked. So thank you very much. I don't think there are any questions. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah. People are just writing, thank you, Mavis.
Okay.
Yeah, just stop sharing. Okay, perfect. So if there are no questions at this point, going once, going twice. Okay, so since I have no more questions, again, thank you so much, Mavis, for this very informative presentation. And I'm handing it over, so to speak, to Ching, who will talk more to us about the ugly truths of fast fashion. So more about specifically what goes into fast fashion production and how it affects our lives and the lives of others. Ching, are you ready to start?
Thank you, Finn. Thank you, Mavis, for bringing up the linkage. So we're gonna watch a video first. Sorry, let me just figure out we're only gonna watch half of it, so okay. I guess that would be the relaxing. Sorry.
Just a moment. So Ido's writing something cryptic. So Ido is saying not a question, but kind of. So what is the kind of question? Okay. Energy poverty. Okay, I will just read it out for people who are not seeing the chat. So the question is maybe not a question, but kind of regarding energy poverty. this was the first time I encountered this term, and if you could link to some more information to it as well as to environmental racism.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe if you have like any specific links or anyone else in the group, just add it to the chat, I guess, but also feel free to say something about that.
Yeah. Okay. So energy poverty, basically, so there are like people who are energy poor, people who do not have access to energy. And so basically, so being poor from energy, and that is like the literal way of explaining energy poverty. And environmental racism as well. It's so from what the example I gave, for example, with African Americans that are who are the most affected, because most of the coal plants and the not so environmentally friendly things are located in their communities, which means they are the ones that would breathe the dirty air. They are the ones that would use the dirty water because it's in their community. And this is like sort of like racism, because it's sort of like systematic. They are located there and they have to face the consequences, although they don't even own the coal plants. They probably are the ones doing the cleaning and the menial jobs in the coal plant, but at the same time, they are the ones that are being really affected by this thing. So that is like environmental racism in that sense. In terms of links, I can definitely share some materials with Shink later on, maybe after the webinar, and maybe he can share it with you guys. I don't have links, but I do definitely have a lot of materials on energy poverty because I'm also a renewable energy professional, so I have a lot of these articles to share. So I would give something to Shink to share with you if you're interested to read more about this.
Perfect, thank you very much. Okay. So someone else having a question at this point? I mean, like if questions come up later for you, we can also ask, you know, towards the end of, you know, the presentation, after Ching's presentation, there's the time for discussion and more questions as well.
Okay, so something lighter, I guess. This video from comedian Hassan Minhaj. I think some of you probably know him. We're just gonna start. We're just gonna dive right in.
Now, the average American buys 68 new pieces a year. And that is largely because of this dominant force in the clothing industry.
Fast fashion is...
That would be SoulCycle's Alamo. It would be a fight to the death. They're like, Ashley, Amber, Alexis, slay!
Right. So you get an idea what this episode would be. It's really fun, like an usual Hassan Minhaj show. It's fun, it's informative, and yeah, please, it's on YouTube. It's a Netflix original, but it's on YouTube, so everyone should just finish the whole episode. I'm not gonna play the whole episode, otherwise, like, why are we here in the same Zoom room, right? Yeah, so I think Hassan Minhaj didn't talk as much in this episode as the worker situation. He kind of touched on it, but I also wanted to remind you that 7 years ago, on the 24th of April, factory in Bangladesh collapsed, killing 1,134 workers who were mostly women. And a year after, they were still unable to find like match the identities of the victims and the bodies. So like a lot of the bodies were handled as anonymous. And we have to also see the fact that Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries. And now it's 7 years. 7 years has passed. So I think it's a very crucial moment that we can take to get to know about this tragedy, and maybe also revisit and see like what has changed in these past 7 years. And for that, I'm not like Mavis or Stanley who have prepared like wonderful presentations. I'm just gonna show you some figures from a website, a web page from Clean Clothes Campaign. Right, where is it? Right, so this article is from last year. So even after 6 years, we can see that nothing has, well, not nothing, but not much, and definitely not enough has been done. That's, I will also send the link to the chat later, but let's just move on to the figures here. So these are about the survivors. So there were 1,400 survivors. And so 20%, I don't know if I can, basically like people are still suffering, like the survivors, life is not any easier that they survived this collapse. And even last year we had Primark opening in Bonn as if this has never happened. And that's something that bothered me so much, like Bonn claiming itself to be a sustainable city. And, while this kind of shit happened and, it was not properly addressed, conditions of working conditions of factory workers are not largely improved or like improved at all. We're talking about working more than 12 hours per day and working 7 days per week. And, as a Taiwanese, I just feel like we went through a transition from agricultural economy towards like in an industrialized society. And for maybe like 20, 30 years, we were doing also like lots of garments. We were exporting garments, we were making clothes, but that was the time when fast fashion wasn't there yet. So we managed to somehow, like through all the industries that were developing, we accumulated the resources, and we somehow become a developed economy. But right now, today, we don't have the same opportunity for the poorest countries. Like they are struggling with the fashion industry. Like the fashion brands come there, like we can see also below that they are subcontracting a lot of the business deals so that they are dodging the regulations that were made to prevent the same tragedy from happening again. And sorry, I think I saw a figure somewhere that I wanted to show you. So even after the tragedy, here, since Rana Plaza tragedy happened, we still have around 500 workers injured and several dozens killed in Bangladesh's garment industry. So apparently, like, not enough has been done. And it's also a very gendered issue because in these factories it's mostly women working, and also we see that only 0.5% of the management positions are being occupied by women. And I think this can kind of help us connect the dots. Like, so what do climate, what do fashion, what do equality have to do with all these? So like, we see that poor countries are struggling from climate change, from climate crisis. We see poor countries barely surviving with all these multi-international brands setting up, well, not exactly setting up, but giving orders to these factories that are treating people horribly, especially treating women horribly. And it just, I mean, that's just, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain this. It just makes me so mad and sad at the same time. It's like how everything's kind of interconnected, and how, you know, people with more privileges in the West spend money to look good. Like, well, they don't even have to spend that much money anymore. While, I don't know, on the other end of the world, people are suffering, you know, in this system. And I guess that's pretty much all I wanted to say. And so I don't think I have much more insights or anything that I can contribute to this discussion. But again, please, I will send both links to the chat, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion with all of you. Any feedback or any points you'd like to bring up? Or do we want to talk about what Ito just wrote? I think Ito wrote something, right? About environmental racism. Right? Okay, sorry, I must have misread that. Or do we want to talk about? Oh, sorry for ending at the lower note, like making it like, oh, depressive and stuff. But like, there are also lots of actions we can take. Like, for example, we were gonna organize a gender neutral climate couch party, and that's an alternative to, for example, to fast fashion. You don't have to spend money to have, you know, pretty clothes that are new to you. You don't have to always wear the same thing, although you should make sure that a piece of clothing is, you know, being used for a longer period of time, so that, you know, it's all worth it, like the amount of resources and amount of work that people put into it. Yeah. Anyone else who have tips or anything they would like to share?
Just reading out like what is written in the chat for people who can see. People are mostly saying like, thank you. They're really grateful for the input. Oh yeah, Ito also mentions that there's a possibility of upcycling and refashion. So maybe we can talk about that. There umsonst leben. And I think Maud also said that she found really funny and helpful that there's like a funny way to also introduce the topic of fast fashion. Yeah. Oh, and apparently there are YouTube channels of people going and buying in secondhand stores.
That's super cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay. Do you want to close your screen so that we can all see each other again?
Oh my God, I didn't realize it's still on. Thank you for pointing that out. I was like, how do I do this? Why am I struggling?
That's fine. Okay, awesome.
Okay. Sorry, you were gonna say something. Yes, I'm totally into vintage. I'm totally into secondhand. I'm totally into upcycling. Yeah. Do we have like a community for that here in Bonn though? I feel like I'm just, or in Düsseldorf or in Cologne. Like, do you know? Yeah, maybe it's a opportunity to share resources.
Well, I mean, you can also talk about the clothing swap events that you hold at GAP, right? That is also another interesting initiative. And I got a jacket, for example, from there last time, because I was actually planning to buy one. And then I came there and there was a jacket there and I didn't have to buy. So, and that was like a really way that I not just only saving money, but also saved resources, you know, so I didn't have to spend money on buying something more. But maybe you can also talk about that a bit if you still have some upcoming or no.
Yeah, thank you for, I just love my partners, like they always allow me to plug, I don't know, whatever we do. So yes, Finn, how many Kleidertausch have we organized together? 2, right?
2, yes.
Yes. Do you want to explain the concept or?
Sure. So essentially, like a clothing swap party, the way we do it is, as some of you have mentioned, a way to share old clothing with each other that we no longer want, but maybe we are emotionally too attached to just like give it to like a secondhand store or like Umsonstland, so a free store. So instead we can like share it more like in a space where we feel comfortable or can have like a look at who will like carry our clothes forward. But also because the Gap wants to be an like inclusive space, particularly for queer people, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and all of those good things, so sexually and gender identically diverse. So that's why we are also making the clothing store party like a gender queer space, so that people can also use this opportunity to maybe try on clothes or play with colors that they would have never done before. So it's not just about like clothing, sharing clothes with each other, it's also about like exploring who you are, what fits you, what works for you. And we also always have the pleasure of Xing and others like coming in to help with like sewing things so that clothes can also be adjusted to different body types.
Yeah, so yeah, we always have our sewing station, and when Mavis came, we actually taught Mavis like the very basic of how to alter like part of her dresses. So that was fun. Laura, you were there at our last Planet House party, right? Like, do you have some thoughts or like anything you'd like to share or?
I was the last time, and I really liked the idea. I actually took some stuff too, and I gave others away that I was too emotionally attached for sure, and it didn't fit me anymore. So it was a really nice experience, and I think it remarks the importance of taking these kind of topics from an intersectional perspective, that is not just one topic that we have to take into account. For example, when it comes to climate change, how it affects Earth actually, and living on Earth, but also how it affects the social dynamics of human beings, and how our different groups are marginalized even more under some complicated environmental circumstances. So I think this is a good opportunity to think about more about including others' perspective, like gender or inequality when it comes to the manufacturing of clothes. So yeah, that would be my input.
Great, thank you, Laura. Yeah, so maybe we can also talk about before we collect more questions and feedback. It's probably worth mentioning that we had a mask upcycling session yesterday. So the point was to, while not destroying your old clothes, you find some fabric that's suitable and actually kind of convenient to use to make your own mask, because we know that in many federal states, like it becomes mandatory to wear a face mask from next Monday, or I mean, I don't really get the facts or dates right, but it's mandatory to go on a bus or go to a shop wearing a face mask. So we will also try to make the recording available soon-ish. So hopefully people, it's kind of a tricky situation, I guess. If you don't have a mask, you cannot go out to shop, and if you don't have the materials, then you don't get to make it. So like, we have to save these people. We have to provide them a way. Yeah, you have to basically create a mask out of nothing, and yeah, and then you can go out to.
As you said, I've got a funny story to that. A person I know works as a healthcare worker, but he doesn't have a mask at home, so he doesn't know how to travel to work without getting fined.
Oh my God, that's actually kind of, it's so sad.
It's kind of ironic,
Yeah.
but not in a funny way.
No, it's not. Oh no.
He texted me this morning like, I learned of that today. Where do I get a mask until Monday?
Do they live in Bonn?
No, they don't.
I mean, like, otherwise I would love to, I don't know, so a couple to support. Yeah, I think it's, everyone's kind of panicking. I just heard that a children's hospital in, needs 300 face masks by Monday and is looking for someone to make them. I just heard it today. So yeah, I guess it can be challenging for many people, many organizations.
Yeah, definitely. I think the current regulations are that, you know, any kind of fabric that you essentially just put over your nose and mouth is fine. So I think scarves for the first days will be okay, but yeah, we'll see how the regulations.
I think scarves are not that matching to the weather at the moment.
True.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about the topics in general, or well, I think, well, Mavis also proposed some like call to action ideas, and one thing I also want to share is Fashion Revolution Week also always does this, you know, wearing your clothes inside out or just showing the tag, like the production tag from your clothes on social media. So you show people like how these clothes, where these clothes are made, of what material they are made, and you know, we should really get into this habit of, you know, informing ourselves of the situation, like making sure that we're not supporting like evil businesses to exploit our fellow human beings. But we want to make sure that, you know, maybe it's organic, so organic cotton, for example, so that farmers are not, you know, destroying their health for producing our clothes. And yeah, maybe, for example, I think an initiative is called Fair Wear Foundation, and also, of course, they are just like there are green labels, there are bio labels, there are also fair trade labels. Might not apply to every category of products, but you know, just be mindful and make better decisions when we shop. That's the least we can do, really.
Yeah, also to bring in the also a social justice perspective. You know, as most of you probably know, a lot of the environmentally more sustainable or fair trade clothes are also more expensive. So if people just don't have the money to buy those things, you know, there's no like shame in that. So all of us need some clothes to put on, but definitely we can all explore, you know, what to do better. But yeah, I think it's also always challenging. Or, you know, also coming back to like racial justice, because definitely in the United States, I'm not entirely sure it is here, most of the time those environmental like products or like food supplies are not even available in predominantly like Black or people of color communities. So yeah, it's not always that easy, but we should always try to do our best with what we have.
I'm super sorry. I didn't mean to like be like, I don't know, classist, and yeah, it was kind of reckless of me, and yeah, just I hope people understood that, you know, I didn't mean that if you cannot, you know, get by that easily, it's well, obviously you still have to continue your life, and it's not about being ashamed of what we are as human beings. We have to continue our lives. Yeah, so just hope that it wasn't like yeah.
No, you did fine, James. No worries. Just because I know, like, some of the people were coming to youth clubs, for example, might not have that much money, or people who are transgender and might not have the support from their families. The only way for them to even afford clothes might be, due to clothes swapping, but also to buy cheaper clothes because that's what they can afford. So it is
why we need to organize. Definitely, we need to organize more. We have to.
Yes, we'll keep doing that, and hopefully also together with all of you guys. So we can expand. We can do that everywhere.
Yeah. Great. And can I just add one thing? I've not been living in Europe for so long, but that's like one thing that I also realize, and maybe that's something that we can also change, is reduce our flying. Because for me, I find it quite surprising, like seeing people flying within Europe, because you can basically, for most of the European countries, you can go by train. Of course, it takes a longer time, but still it's at the benefits of the environment and all of that. So, and you can read in the train. The trains are so comfortable, you could even sleep. So I really kind of have a hard time when people sort of travel within Europe. So maybe we can also try to sacrifice some of our flying and use more trains. Let us use more car sharing options as much as possible to also reduce our carbon footprint. Yeah, I understand. So all of these economic dynamics also come into play. But if I read correctly, I think like Germany is actually planning this transportation policy where they are going to introduce some subsidies on trains, and they are also going to increase taxes on airlines. So in the near future, maybe some government policy actions can help us solve this situation by making train affordable and planes more expensive. But I can completely understand if airline it's like cheaper and you cannot afford train, then there's just like the way Finn explained with buying sustainable products. Sometimes you really want to, but it's not within your reach economically. So some of these issues are there, but if we have the opportunity to be able to afford train that is less, we are able to afford the train, maybe we should always take that option in comparison to flying. Yeah. So that's also why we have to vote for politicians who are advocating for environmental policy, so that they can push some of these policies at the political level, at the government level, so that some of these tax reductions and some of these subsidies can also help reduce the cost and help us live a more environmentally friendly life, let's say.
Totally. I just come up with one. Well, actually, I've been thinking about this all along. I have one question for Stanley. So I was wondering, like, how you started getting so engaged with the climate topic. Like, how did it all start, and like, what does it mean for you? Why is it so important to you, Stanley? If you feel like sharing? Yeah.
Sorry?
I mean, if you feel like sharing with us.
I don't think I have a special effect for gay people, also I mean for the climate change. And I think whatever your sexuality, or if you're gay or not, it's not a really, it doesn't matter, because the consequence, the effect is real for all people, for all the people in this planet. And that's why I would like to a little bit explain for men what is men, because men is whatever your I like this definition from Hannah Arendt. He says whatever the description for men or for women, it says it's this construction for the people, from the people. It's not really a construction for all, because when you say I'm a man, I'm a woman, it's only from the past, the description. And when I talk, and the people is responsible for the climate change, and I mean for all, and I mean for gay, for lesbian, for trans, whatever, what the people, who the people is described. Because whatever what you make, it can be a consequence for the planet, for the planet. It can be a consequence for the future, and that's why we should all people should make something for find a solution for this problem. And I also like your presentation, and also for the question from Mavis, if I say it right. And because we Maeve.
Yeah, Mavis, that's correct.
Mavis, cool. Yeah, but now we can see really the relation from the climate with your presentation. We see the relation from the climate change and Kleidung with the clothes. Then it is very interesting. It's very interesting, this of this speakers of this conference, because we can really make the relation for, say, okay, if I buy a clothes, if I buy a t-shirt by Adidas or Jack and Joe's, but we should think what can be a consequence after, what can be a consequence. Okay, we can also ask where come these clothes, or is product. And I can say, okay, my thesis was a very good, hat das gut geklärt? Wir können das was das Ansatz, also Entschuldigung, hat das gut erklärt, also wo unsere Kleidung, wo unsere Kleidung kommt, also wie wurden sie denn produziert? Und auch für die Leute, die dort in Industrie arbeiten, und auch die sieht man auch, die Frauen sind verletzt, also sie sind zuerst betroffen, also dass die Frauen arbeiten eher im Industrie, also Industrie für die Kleidung produzieren. Und auch, ja, wird auch später das auch merken durch die Transportation, durch die Chemieprodukte, also die Produkte benutzen, die Kleidung zu machen. Und auch am Ende wird auch alle diese CO2-Ausstoß und unsere Atmosphäre werden wir alle betroffen, egal welche Orientierung sexuell, also, oder egal wie du dich selbst wie heißt das, definiert oder so. Und auch am Ende wird auch alle, das muss alle zusammen das machen. Schwul, lesbisch oder egal deine sexuelle Orientierung, muss man alle was zusammen machen. And I would also say thank you very much for your attention for my presentation. And it was very, very interesting to speak with you.
Yay. Oh yes, thank you very much for being with us for this long. Are there any like things you wanna like leave us with, like maybe one of the presenters or someone else, like a last thought?
Mavis wanted us to take a group selfie, but now we have like a couple of participants left already. But like, can we still do that? Are people comfortable with the idea? Then on the count of 3, please stare into the camera. 1, 2, 3. Yes, good. We have a selfie.
Yay.
Great.
Okay, cool.
Everyone, back to you, Finn.
Thank you, Ching. So yeah. Any more like finishing thoughts or last minute questions? Going once, going twice.
Okay, maybe I also wanted to say thanks to Stanley as well for his presentation. I mean, my German is not so good, so I probably did not understand like 50% of it, but because I understand the topic, I was able to also sort of follow. So it was a really good presentation, and I also just wanted to mention that. And to everybody else for being here. And just to say that let's just not leave the discussions here. Let us strive to do something, even if it is something little. I think every little thing matters. So for example, for me, I cannot claim to be the most environmentally or the most sustainable person on the planet because I cannot let go of meat. So even though I really want to stop taking meat, I cannot, but at least I try not to buy anything with plastic. I try to reduce my flying as much as possible and try to use train whenever I can. So you cannot do everything, but you can do something little to contribute to this whole climate crisis. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Mavis. Awesome. So again, thank you everyone. It was really good to see so many of you, see your beautiful faces, and thank you for taking the time. Do something nice for yourself afterwards, because sometimes when you have like heavy topics that you are dealing with, you know, it gets you down. So maybe see if you can do something nice for you to uplift yourself afterwards. I see Ido is typing something.
Right, and let's please stay in touch. And again, we will send an email around, including all the resources, well, all the links that were promised, basically. So maybe it's just gonna provide some information, Stanley's videos, and from my end, I'll also, again, include the article, 7-year review, and also the YouTube video to Hassan Minhaj's take on fast fashion, and then the AG topic list. So if any of you are into like a certain topic, please feel free to reach out and can do this together. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so I think everybody can read the group chat, and yeah, also good to have you all here. See you all soon. Stay in touch.
See you. Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
See you soon.
Stay healthy.
Bye.
Bye.